Following up on the wise words of Senator Sass yesterday on separation of powers, your record before the Senate includes more than 10,000 pages of judicial writings over your dozen years. We have over 440,000 pages of emails and other records from your legal service at the White House and Judge Starr. And you have written extensively on the issue of our Constitution's separation of power among the three branches. A key component of the separation of powers is the independent judiciary. Obviously, everybody learns in 8th grade civics about judges interpreting law. The judiciary must continue to be the least political and least dangerous branch. A judge's sole job is to find and apply the law evenly and fairly without regard to the president who nominated him, the senators who voted for him, the parties before him, and the political consequences of his judicial decision. So, Judge, let's discuss judicial independence from the executive branch. No one, not even the president, is above the law. Some of my colleagues have criticized your views of presidential authority, suggesting, wrongly in my opinion, that your views of presidential authority would not allow any meaningful check on the president, particularly this one. Please tell us what judicial independence means to you, including whether you have any trouble ruling against the president who appointed you and against the executive branch in any case before you. You partly talked about independence, but apply it specifically to a ruling against the president or the executive branch generally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To begin with, you're correct. No one is above the law in our constitutional system. Federalist 69, Hamilton, makes clear all the ways that the executive branch, as designed by the framers of the Constitution, was different from the monarchy. Under our system of government, the executive branch is subject to the law, subject to the court system, and that's an important part of Federalist 69. It's an important part of the constitutional structure. In general, so too, we as judges are separate from the Congress. We are not supposed to be influenced by political pressure from the executive or from the Congress. We are independent. We make decisions based on law, not based on policy, not based on political pressure, not based on the identity of the parties, no matter who you are in our system, no matter where you come from, no matter how rich you are or how poor you are, no matter your race, your gender, no matter your station in life, no matter your position in government. It's all equal justice under law. And again, look at our examples in history. I always will go back to the great moments in our history where these principles, which sound abstract if you're just describing them, were actually implemented. And I go back to Youngstown Steel. And you think about, it's a 6-3 decision where the Supreme Court rules that President Truman has violated the law by seizing the steel mills. Now, this is a time of war where lots of Americans were killed, and the Supreme Court's under pressure to defer to the president's war effort in a 6-3 decision. But what's interesting to me, Justice Clark, you don't usually talk about Justice Clark in that decision. Why is he important? He's important. He was appointed by President Truman to the Supreme Court. What a moment of judicial independence there to rule in that case. You think about Justice Jackson, who had been working for President Roosevelt, and then he dissents in the Korematsu case. Stands up and says, letting racism like this is like letting a loaded weapon lie around. Dissents against President Roosevelt's decision. Justice Jackson's...
Ask him to suspend.
Justice Jackson's concurrence in Youngstown, which is, of course, what has become the law, that three-part test, Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. But again, he writes that concurrence in Youngstown. Why is that a moment of judicial independence? He had taken positions contrary to that when he had worked in the executive branch in the Roosevelt administration, yet when he's a judge, he sees it differently as an independent judge. How about Chief Justice Berger? United States versus Nixon. Writes the opinion. Unanimous. Moments of judicial independence. So it's resisting public pressure, political pressure. It's treating everyone equally, no matter where you are, what station. When I was became a judge on the D.C. Circuit, I had a case called Hamdan versus United States. Who's Hamdan?
This is a position of integrity. This is a position of protecting the inalienable rights of all persons within this country. If you are a man of integrity, you yourself would cancel these hearings. You yourself would remove yourself. This is not you can boycott the hearing, but you can change something. We don't work for you. Representatives, 2.8 million more of us than there are of you, and we deserve justice to represent us.
So in the Hamdan case, Hamdan's one of bin Laden's associates. You will never have a nominee. Mr. Chairman, should I proceed?